Hey everybody, and welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where I'm going to do you a rules overview of Knockdown, the latest game from Awakened Realms. I've got a copy here. Bam! Look at the size of that box. As you may be able to tell from this box, this is in fact a game from Awakened Realms Light, which means that it's a light and quick game to play. It is designed by Adam Kwapinski, who did Nemesis, and the new Frostpunk board game, and he did Hard City, which is a game we played on the channel that we really liked. So we're keen to see what this one has in store for us. This is a 2-player only, head-to-head 2D fighter simulation game. So you'll be picking 2 characters and they'll be going at it in a game that's fast and that takes about 15 to 30 minutes to play. So let's open up the box and see what's inside. So I'll show you what's in the box and then I'll give you a quick rundown of what's going on and how the game plays, so you get a sense of what it's all about and you can decide if it's something that you'd be interested in, because it's currently live on Kickstarter, at least at the time of posting this video. I'm actually going to pull everything out first to show you one of the neatest features, and yes, there are minis because it's Awakened Realms. There we have our 2D fighting arena, and in order to set up the game, it's so simple. Just pick 2 characters, and there's 3 here in this core set, but there might be more in the future. Stick them on these orange bordered hexes here, which are the starting hexes. You give each player 5 of the starting cards that you're going to find in the box, so each player gets 1 of these character boards. We're going to take the deck of skill cards here, give them a shuffle. We'll take the deck of attack cards here, give those a shuffle too. And you're actually now literally all set up and ready to play. You may be wondering, what are these dice for? Well, these are used for resolving knockouts, but only if you're playing with the variant that incorporates dice. The standard rules don't even use them at all. We've got these 4 tokens, which are actually traps for Driana, so if you don't play with her, you won't be using those. And we've got these red and white tokens, which are wounds. These are serious wounds, and these are light wounds. Let me show you the characters in a little bit more detail real quick before I jump into the rules. The 3 characters are Jingo, who is some kind of a cyborg fighter man, and he's got a big old halberd thing. And these are his abilities on his character card as well. It says here he's a spirit of justice. Verita, it says here, is an underworld vindicator. So maybe he's here for revenge. But what he has got is 4 fists, so he can do some pretty fast attacking, and also some serious blocking. And finally we've got Driana, who is the keeper of the forest. And she lays traps down and plays keep away. So you want to get in there and start fighting, but she's going to say no. So now I'll talk you through an overview of how the game plays. Each character has been given an identical set of 5 starting cards, and we're going to deal 3 skills to each player. These are face down. Then each player is going to take a look at the skill set that they've been given, and they're going to decide on one that they don't want their opponent to have. And then they'll pass the other 2, all of this face down, to their opponent, who's done the same thing. Now you've got another choice to make. 2 more cards to choose from. Decide one that you want to keep, and one you're going to give back to your opponent. So you may be making a choice based on what you want, or what you don't want them to have. Once you've chosen one to keep, give them the other. And your opponent has done the same thing. Now you've got 2 skill cards, and you must choose which one you want to have, and which one you want to discard. So in this way, we've done a mini draft to find our starting skill card. Now we're going to turn over the top 4 cards of the attack deck to form a card pool. Leave the attack deck close by, you'll need that later. The final step before we play is for each player to discard 2 of the 5 cards that they start with. And you'll see these look exactly like the combat cards. But with the starting cards, we can ignore pretty much everything on the card. All we're really interested in are these symbols here. Once a card is in your hand, really you're just interested in the symbols in the red banner. So we've got 1 of each symbol that appears in the game, and these symbols have a hierarchy of quality. This is the special symbol, and that's the most important in the hierarchy. Then it's the shield, which is like a block. And then it is the move card, which is the arrow. And finally it's punch, and then kick. So I must discard 2 of these cards. I'm trying to decide which of the 3 I want to keep. This is important later because whatever's in my hand will help me trigger the combos on my fighter card. Once I've discarded my 2 cards, my opponent and I will both reveal the cards that we discarded. And whoever discarded cards closest to the top of the hierarchy will go first. So if I get rid of the special and my opponent doesn't, I'll play first. Whereas if I get rid of the punch and the kick, I'll probably go last. I should also take a look at what cards have been dealt face up to the table to see which symbols I can easily reacquire. Seeing as there's no special symbol here, I probably want to hang on to the special symbol. After all, a bunch of my abilities use it. So now that both fighters have chosen which two to get rid of, we flip them over, and we can see Jingo's gotten rid of the special, whereas Varota just got rid of kick and punch. So Jingo will go first, and have a turn, and then Varota, and turns will go back and forth between the two characters until one of them is forced by their opponent to do a knockdown test and fails that test. After which, that opponent is knocked out and other player's the winner. You do 3 rounds and best of 3. On your turn, you can do 2 actions, and there are 4 available in the game. You can move, you can rest, you can draw, and you can combo. You can move 1 space forward or backwards in the arena, bearing in mind that you cannot move through your opponent unless you have a special rule that allows you to do that. You can rest, which gets rid of half of your minor wounds. Over the course of the game, we'll be dealing wounds to one another, which come in the form of light wounds and serious wounds. When you rest, you can get rid of half of the light wounds, rounded down, that you've been dealt. So if Varota has 5 light wounds, and he chooses to rest, he can get rid of 2 of them. Your serious wounds, you can't get rid of. Once they're dealt, and you'll just have to deal with that. The next action is draw, which means to take one of the 4 face-up cards. When you draw a card, you activate the attack on the card. The symbol will be useful later on. Detailed on the card is the range of the attack, as well as what the attack does. This 2 means that it's a range 2, and we can see here the little hexagons indicate what that looks like. In this case, both characters are out of range for cut, so this attack would not be performed. Attacks have a deal keyword, which tells you what damage they deal. This deals a light wound, and perhaps a special ability here on the bottom as well. Note that the text at the bottom only triggers if the wound is dealt. Here we can see an example of one that deals 2 wounds, and here we've got an example of a serious wound. When you draw a card, you take that card, you carry out the attack, and you put it into your hand. You can only ever have a maximum of 6 cards in your hand, so if you would take a 7th, you must choose one to discard instead. After a player's taken both of their actions, the card pool is refreshed. The final action is combo, and combo involves these abilities on your character board. You can see here I've got 4 abilities on my board. These 3 grey ones are offensive, and this white one down here is a defensive ability. This is not used as part of a combo, but only ever in response to an opponent's attack. Not all characters have a defensive ability. We can see that Jingo has 4 attacks. When you combo, you can move and trigger abilities. You'll trigger as many as you can afford to pay for, and all of them have a cost in cards. In order to move, you must have a card with this arrow symbol. When you're comboing, you can discard any number of these to move any number of spaces. You can also do these in any order, which means that you can discard some arrow cards, trigger an ability, discard some more, and trigger another ability. Or you can just trigger abilities. Each character has a number of abilities that they can use as part of their combo, and all of these have different special rules as well. Each of these abilities can only be used once per combo, unless otherwise specified. When you combo, you only have to use 1 ability on your board. You can use each ability 1 time, but you'll be limited by the cards in your hand that are required to trigger the abilities. It's important to keep in mind when you're pulling off a combo that you're going to be paying the cards on the left-hand side here. So to use the Shaolin Rage, you'll be paying a combination of fist and kick cards. All the abilities are explained with the text in the middle. Here you'll need a special card, like this one here, to discard in order to use throw. And for Power of the Mind, you'll need a shield plus 1 of any other type. So you're going to want to be collecting these cards in order to create the combos you want. Jingo might get rid of an arrow card to move 1 forward, a second arrow card to move another space forward, and then he might give up 2 punches and a kick to trigger his Shaolin Rage ability, and a special symbol to trigger his throw ability. This means that he would have dealt 2 serious wounds at the top here, and then an unblockable serious wound, and change places with his opponent after that. He had to move forward in order to get into range to trigger these abilities. Varota has dealt 2 serious wounds from the Shaolin Rage, and 1 from the throw, and he doesn't block any of them, which means that we trigger the text on shell and throw, and swap places. And that's an example of a combo. But whenever you perform an attack, whether it's a single ability from your character board or an ability from a card that you've just drawn, there's a process to follow in order to carry out the attack. Let's say, for example, that Verita decides to draw this card. He carries out a low punch attack, which is in range, on Jingo. He deals 2 light wounds. The wounds are put into a pool. Jingo then has the opportunity to block. In order to block, you can discard any number of these shield cards from your hand to prevent light wounds. If he discarded 2 cards, you could get rid of them both. If he discards no cards, then he has to add the 2 light wounds to his wounds pool. Additionally, any special text on the card, if there was any, would be triggered, and the attack is resolved. Some attacks might include a mixture of light and serious wounds. There are 2 important things to note about serious wounds, other than they can't be healed. When you block a serious wound, you downgrade it to a light wound. Now, this means that it can be healed later with a rest action. But a serious wound has a more threatening effect as well. If Jingo does not block the wounds coming in from this attack, then Verita can decide to cancel one of the serious wounds in the attack. Jingo must take the remaining wounds, and after adding them to his wound pool, he must perform a knockout test. There are 2 ways to resolve a knockout test. The standard way is with a dexterity minigame. But you can also use a dice variant if you don't like dexterity minigames. A knockout test works like this. Jingo has 10 seconds to stack all of these cubes on top of one another. If, at the end of the 10 seconds, he's succeeded, then he's still alive and the game continues. If he fails, however, the game is over and Verita wins. In the dice variant, you simply throw 3 dice, sum up their values, and if the value on the dice is greater than the total wounds that you've collected, you've survived. But if it's lower, you're knocked out. Once a player is knocked out, their opponents won the round, and if no one has 2 wins, you play again. But if this is someone's second win, they've won the game. Congratulations, you're the master of the arena. Each player also gets one of these unique skills. Some of these are passive, some of them give you special different abilities. Don't forget about them, because they're really important. And so that's pretty much everything you need to know to play Knockdown. Of course, what you'll find is that there are many, many different characters with many different ability sets and play styles, and I'll leave you to discover those on your own. But if you'd like to see the game in action, I've invited over my friend Household Ninja to come and play the game with me. But I don't know where she is. So hopefully she'll show up and we can make a video of us playing the game. So be sure to check that out if you want to see the game in action. And if you found this little overview useful, leave a like down below. Thanks for watching.